Hi there, it's Catherine, your lawyer friend and guide, and this is the #1 podcast for legal careers in Japan. Well, welcome back to Lawyer on Air, to today's special guest episode with Shinsuke Kaneko. It's a really great episode, especially for the people who are first-year associates out there and they're wondering as they enter the law firm, what am I doing here? What have I signed up for? I don't know what is going on. I don't know if I'm coming or going, and how I managed to actually get into this nightmare. And who can I talk to? Well, I'm here to tell you the good news, and that Shinsuke can tell you it's not as bad as you think. And we can really misjudge a situation like this when we're in our first year. By simply asking for help for our one next step, it can lead us to a pathway full of serendipity. That's a key word in this episode today. So asking questions as a first year in any job is a total game changer. And things are way more simple than our brains tell us how it should be. So who is this guy called Shinsuke? He has walked the journey from law firm life at Mofo to an in-house role at Accenture. And now he's got this amazing portfolio career in his own business and really enjoying mastering AI, consulting on AI, and also mentoring women lawyers. His story is a perfect mix of taking chances, of recognizing unexpected opportunities, and trusting in good old serendipity. There it is again. And basically not having it all set out in concrete is actually his key. So if you're feeling stuck or uncertain about the future at the start of 2025, I've got you covered. This episode is here to inspire you, because sometimes the best career pathways happen when we least expect them. Let's get started. So Shinsuke, imagine we're grabbing a drink. Where are we and what's your order?
Yes, I would like to go to my favorite Japanese dining bar, and it's called Botan near Kiyosumi Shirakawa Station. And I really love sake, and order in this time a hot pot would be great. And I love this place because my friend introduced me to this place, and my friend used to be a toji. Toji means sake brewer. So he knows all the best places that serves excellent sake and pair with perfect dishes.
Wow, that sounds like such fun. I love Japanese sake too.
Hmm.
Yeah, and recently I was in Okayama area, Kurashiki, and they have some really nice new sakes as well down there. And I love the idea you've got a friend on hand, a toji, a sake brewer in the past, who's helping you find the great places.
That's right.
I would love that person to do a kind of seminar on sake and teach us a little bit more about, how sake is brewed, what we should look for a great sake when we're choosing off the menu. That would be awesome.
And having him next to you at the bar or restaurant is a personal guide.
Ooh, I love that idea. Let's do that. And it sounds great. Botan is a name of a flower, I think. Is that right?
That's right, that's right. They are really small dining bar with only 10 seats at a counter. Very intimate. And only one okami, the owner chef, and just another staff member. So there are like only two there, but they have always have like 40 or 50 different dishes on the menu.
Incredible. Kudos to them. Wow, amazing. And I think that kind of place really teaches you patience, because with only two people there and 10 people being served, usually they fill up to 10 people. You have to really wait and be careful and patient about them as they're serving food to others. So you can't be anxious or, where's my food? You have to be
Mhm.
really laid back. And I love that kind of restaurant because it teaches you to just go with the flow.
That's right. That's like it's like a home party.
Well, fantastic. Thank you for that. Botan, which I think means peony, which is a beautiful flower in Japan when it flowers in season as well. So I look forward to going there with you sometime in the future.
Sure, sure, sure.
Well, thanks so much, Shinsuke, for being my special guest today. I'm planning to ask you some questions that, capture real key themes about your career journey. And I know that serendipity is one big thing you like to talk about, and also the role of technology and cross cultural understanding. Because you're a lawyer by trade, right? You are a lawyer still, you're a legal counsel and executive advisor at a company called, how do you say that name? DELY.
DLY Delhi.
Delhi, great. So that's the name of the company you're at. And I just wanted to get into your insights because you've been such a great supporter of the podcast, very interactive and helping with lots of women lawyers that you mentor in the community and look after. So are you ready for it?
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
get into
I'm
it.
excited.
Let's lift off. Okay, well, let's talk first about what I'd like to call a legal career trailblazer or wanderer. Now, this is something that you call yourself, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Could you share some moments and turning points that have really defined you to become this career trailblazer or career wanderer?
So I started my career at Morrison Foerster, MoFo, and then moved to Accenture, Japan as in-house counsel, then moved to a Japanese startup called Deli. Deli is operating a recipe app called Crushil. I stayed there for about 3 years and left at the end of last year. So it's been about a year from then. And I'm now a solo practitioner doing my firm named Verse. And so I started my career as an associate at a law firm, then to become an in-house counsel, and then to become a corporate executive. And I'm back to the law firm, but I don't have any colleague. So that the whole picture of my career journey. But talking about turning points, there were many turning points, but what I remember or think about first was my first year associate days at MoFo. I still sometimes remember some key moments at the time. Yeah, by telling this, this makes me a bit like emotional. But
Okay, let's hold the space for you. That's all
yeah,
right.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
But
go for it.
I'm sure that this will help younger lawyers, like in their 20s or 30s, because it's a kind of like a small, not a mistake or failure, but I learned a big lesson from this episode or like
You tripped up.
event.
Sounds like you
Yes,
tripped up
so
somewhere, so you stumbled a little bit.
that's right. So this was a kind of like a bitter but eye-opening experience, and this is from my first year at MoFo, and it was around April 15 years ago, and it was morning time, and I stood outside a partner's office and being quite nervous, and I was hesitating whether to knock the door. And that was a moment I remember. And so it was about 3 months after I started my life as a lawyer, and I had no billable assignments that month. But other first years were getting busier and busier, and they all work late into midnight. So that situation made me increasingly anxious. And I spent my days in the office library because I pretended to do research, even though I didn't have nothing to do. And I stayed in the office until evening for no reason. And it was so embarrassing. And yeah, to make matters worse, I couldn't talk to anyone about it. And I was really naive. at the time. And I even thought that I had already been labeled as the least capable first year associate. And I was worried that I would eventually have to leave the firm if this continued. And I was in panic. And I never imagined I ran out of work right at the start. And after all that hard work and many years to pass the Japanese bar exam. So it was a nightmare situation for me. And I even Googled other law firms, thinking about switching firms. Yeah, but there was this moment to think that running away without trying anything would defeat the whole purpose of becoming a lawyer. And then I made a decision. I'm going to knock on every lawyer's office door and ask for work. And yeah, it's 15 years later now, but I still think about that day sometimes.
Wow, I thank you so much for sharing that. It's something that I don't think I've heard someone mention before, but we've all had it at some point. And that word you used, embarrassing, and you used nightmare, and the hesitation to ask for help or who to ask, I think it all grabs us at some point. And it's a little scary, isn't it?
It was really scary. So
So, what
I
happened then? You knocked on these doors. Did work come to you?
so it turned out that all my worries were just a misunderstanding. And it was it turned out to be just a funny thing. But the partners and senior associates thought I was really busy because uh, I never said anything, and
Right.
I was always researching in the library. So from the next day
Yeah,
on, I started getting assignments little by little. After a
right.
week, then 2 weeks, I was getting work from multiple lawyers, and I asked for it myself, so I couldn't turn it down, you know?
Yeah, be careful what you ask for. But that's it, right? They thought you were so busy and working for somebody else on some work, but actually you weren't so busy. But isn't that interesting that it was actually a misunderstanding about things and that you found your way? That is extremely insightful, and I thank you so much for sharing that. I was hooked on every word you just talked about.
Thank you for saying that.
And I
So,
think that leads you then, right? Because this is you trailblazing, I guess, as a first year, and perhaps you've helped other lawyers since that time who are a little frustrated in the same way you were. Perhaps you now are able to tell them, hey, just knock on a door, ask someone. I challenge you to do that. You'll
that's right.
find that actually you may not have it quite the way you think it is in going round in your brain. But you've gone from that, and we're going to go into other parts of your career, but to building your own firm verse. So that learning from those first days, you still reflect on it. How does it help you now in your search for work from other clients or customers? Do you have that feeling within you that I've got to go out there and make it myself? That you are like that first year associate almost?
That's right. That's the same. That's the same. So, this give me some energy because this was the first my work experience. It's a small thing, but I show my courage, and it gave me some confidence. And so, if you want an opportunity, sometimes all you need to do is knock a door. So
Yes,
I'm
absolutely.
taking this attitude.
Good. And that's it, isn't it? If you don't ask, you don't get. I remember going to the Empire State Building in New York and buying a ticket at the front counter.
Let's see.
And there was a sign on the front counter that actually said, if you don't ask, you don't get. And it was so informative to me. I don't know why it was sitting on that front counter, but I
Hmm.
think maybe people just assumed the way to get up the elevators to the top of the tower. I'm
Hmm.
not sure. Maybe they had that sign there. Look, we're not going to tell you anything unless you ask us. And I love that. And I've got a photograph of it somewhere in my collection. I can't wait to find it again. But isn't that it? Such a great lesson to don't be embarrassed. You might feel
That's
it
right.
grab you round the throat. But just ask and someone will help you.
Someone will help you because you like made a lot of efforts on one thing on your profession. So I'm sure you are brilliant. You have some
Sure.
like a sort of excellence in you.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
it's really easy to forget that.
All right. So moving forward, you've had a lot of experience of engineering serendipity through
Yes.
technology. And this
Hmm.
is very exciting because so many lawyers are getting into technology, but they may not really understand it. But you've really been working on this pretty hard. Your career's covered diverse sectors from ICT law and AI law. How do you do the transitions and shape your view on this tech legal landscape?
So I started working on ICT. So it's related to telecommunication, semiconductor, or yeah, smartphones. It was kind of like natural thing for me to get to learn new things on technology while working on my projects. But for lawyers who are not familiar with technology, technology is becoming increasingly invisible to human eye. We've moved from the hardware era to software, then to contents and services, and now to experiences. And we have AI now, so we are entering the era of architecture and environment because AI is a technology that blending into everything. So you are using AI when you use Google, when you use e-commerce app, AI is helping you. So in the ICT era, you had feature phones, right? The feature is to make calls and send emails. It was really simple things. But you had a lot of phones in various designs, and so the value of feature phones was really visible. But after smartphones arrived, the value shifted to apps. There are like countless new apps for anything you want to do.
Everything.
Everything. That's right. And new things emerge daily, every day. And they are now not like a simple calendar app. No, you have TikTok or Be Real or something like that. So apps have more like contents, more like services. And now, like you have smart homes or smart cities. So that's why I said technology is becoming more like architecture and environment.
I love this though. This has been so educational, right? The changes in the values. Exactly. You said it so well, right? It was certainly very visible in those first phones when they came out. We could just choose any design, pink, something that opened like a flip phone, all kinds
That's
of things.
right.
And then, as you say, smartphones is all about the apps. Someone said to me the other day, "Oh, you arrived in Japan when there was no Google or no apps. How did you get yourself around Tokyo?" And that got me thinking, right? The change of
Mm.
time and how much we rely on tech. And now,
That
as you
that's right. Like
say,
it
yeah,
feels like that I am a
yeah,
dinosaur when I
I
like
feel like a
speak with like
dinosaur.
young people.
I was like, thanks for that. I feel like a dinosaur. But yeah, you're right. It's so embedded in everything we do now. That
Mm.
is why, it's hard perhaps for lawyers to know how to use tech. So, what do you think, in your view, is going to help lawyers in their roles? What skills should they follow and focus on in this environment and architecture of tech?
So one good thing with lawyers is that we love to understand complex things, right?
True.
Yeah, we love problems, we love complex things. But the point here is that it's impossible to grasp how these technologies are used or what problems arise and what rules are needed just by sitting in your law firm office. Right. So you need to get outside from your office and go into the field and experience things firsthand and talk to people. There are tons of people enjoying apps that you never know or you never imagine. Like your like a first reaction was, what? Why are you doing this?
Why is that going to be important for lawyers to be finding out from other people what kinds of apps they're using? They have to be back in the desk doing billable hours. What's important here?
What's important here is the technology changes first, the days of your some people, right? When YouTube or like a TikTok came to our life, most of the people didn't understand the value or the impact of these new services. But later, you'll find out that your friends enjoy watching random videos. Then you realize that the young people dancing at home. And if you just focusing on your billable hours at the office, you do not understand, you do not recognize the change. And that'll be okay for like a year or a few years, but then clients will notice that you're behind. So
There's the
that's the
point.
problem. So market changes and the clients live in the market. That's the reason.
That's it. The clients live in the market, and if you don't understand them and what they're doing, what they're up to, yeah, you'll be left behind. So I love that. YouTube's great, isn't it, for helping you find all kinds of things. People will give demonstrations of how to do a product or work on how to fix something, and brilliant. I still don't really understand TikTok. So my takeaway today from you so far, one of the many, is to concentrate a little bit more on TikTok and see what it can teach me.
That's right.
Thanks so much for that. But are there opportunities then for lawyers in Japan to be using AI as it continues to evolve? What do you see as opportunities emerging for lawyers using AI?
Using AI, so just use AI search engine. Now Google has a AI feature, and you have other services like Perplexity or James Park or Fellow. So if you do not know the names of these services, just Google it.
Or just follow you on LinkedIn and you post
Yeah,
about
sure,
these
sure, sure.
things too. Yeah,
LinkedIn or like X or Facebook. So, and you can just ask me.
exactly. Interesting. Well, I'd like to pivot a little bit from AI and talk more about your career journey and key
Okay.
lessons there. You've shared some really great advice early on there. But one other piece of advice you often talk about is make your own fans, and your weakness is your best strength. I've heard you and seen you talk about these things. They're really insightful. Can you explain a little bit more about what you learned from these lessons? Why are they resonating with you? These make your own fans and your weakness is your best strength.
Yes, these are from Japanese experienced lawyers. And the first thing, make your own fans, are from my boss at MoFo, litigation partner, Yuki Terazawa. So I really wanted to know his work secrets because he sometimes like used his magic to
Mm.
clients. And so he is always cheerful, even though when we face with serious issues in litigation or other projects. So he keeps a really positive and cheerful attitude. So even when clients come to his office and worry about a case, like we might lose or like saying something like that, just talking with Yuki lifts their spirits. they're energized and they have a more positive outlook or have different perspective to see the case. So from my view as an associate, it was like magic because, oh wow, I didn't think about that aspect, even though I was into the case and I read all the evidence and did all the research, but I didn't think about that aspect. So that happens a lot.
But how does he lift the spirits? And I guess how are you adopting that now with your clients to lift their spirits during difficult times? What is it that he does that's his magic? Can you describe it?
When you look at people around you as clients or stakeholders, you will forget that we are human beings, right? So we are humans with emotion and feeling and with their own reality. So by seeing others as your potential fans, you can switch your mindset. Then you'll start thinking what they want to get or what they're worried about. So his advice was really helpful for me to put myself in other shoes. Empathy, right?
It's great, isn't it? Right? Putting yourself in other people's shoes. And I don't think we do that enough. We want people to sort of understand our shoes,
Yes.
right? Especially as lawyers, I'm the one with the knowledge, I'm the one helping you here, but actually flip it and be more conscious of the other person. How about that other one? The weakness is your best strength. How is that possible?
My teacher at a law school is a really famous bankruptcy lawyer. And I learned a lot about bankruptcy law and practice from him. And I asked him for his advice to become a good lawyer after I graduated from law school at Chuo University and then passed the bar exam. And I remember that I got a job offer from MoFo at the time. And then I started worrying about if I can become a good lawyer because I recognized my weaknesses, like worrying about things too much, overthinking. Sometimes my pride gets in the way to ask for help. Yeah, so that led to
Repeating,
my first
repeating.
my a bitter experience at MoFo, but I knew that before I joined MoFo. So I asked if there anything I can do to fix my weaknesses.
Mm,
So the teacher responded, "No need to fix your weaknesses." And I was like, "What?"
wow.
So how can I get my clients even with these weaknesses? So he explained that from his own experience, he recognized that there are definitely those who love your weaknesses. So it was quite inspirational, but it was really hard for me at the time to understand the meaning of it. And it took me years to recognize that that was true.
So, how can you love your weaknesses? Or how is it that people can love your weaknesses? Is that talking about vulnerability? So, showing some vulnerability means it's actually quite appealing for people to see a teeny crack that is letting in some light to show who you really, really are. Is
Hmm.
that what he's getting at and what you're thinking about there?
So, yes, in one sense, showing vulnerability to personalize yourself is one thing, of course, but as a professional, you need to provide value to the client first before creating a personal connection, bonding with your clients, right? So his point was my weakness as worrying too much, overthinking is of course a weakness in some occasion, but if you can change it into the attitude of preparing for something completely, right? So because for lawyers, there's no too much preparation. There's no too much research, even though, like, of course, there is a time constraint, but there is often the case where you miss something. So worrying every time is a must. So I recognize that through my experience of over preparation and too much research, but sometimes that gives me a hint to recognize my bias or blind spot of like others or blind spot of clients. So having your weakness doesn't like help you, but find out the good part of your weakness or how to take advantage of your nature is really important because at the end of the day, your like own nature will become your talent or what attracts your clients.
Finding your fans,
That's right, that's
that
right.
turning it round to the good part of a weakness, take advantage of your own actual inherent nature and totally your talent. Love it. It's very interesting because I heard someone the other day say that they were too kind and that people took advantage of them and they should just stop being so kind. This is a lawyer.
Hmm.
And I thought, no, 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 no. Kindness is absolutely one of your talents. Never destroy or get rid of one of your talents. But somehow you can think of it differently, like you're talking about. Perhaps it's a weakness in certain situations. So, how you can actually modify the amount of kindness or depth of it for certain people, but never, never throw it away.
That's right. So if you have something you extremely like or extremely something, that's a sign that there may be that may be your talent.
Exactly. How about then for women who are trying to excel in Japan's legal field? This is a podcast primarily for women, but not necessarily only for women. Do you have any advice for aspiring female lawyers? Maybe even overcoming some of the barriers in the profession or something that might have come up for you recently that you could help share with others?
Yes, so for women lawyers or young lawyers, sometimes like a not much of your like your own thing or like a unique thing or your strength, not enough. So in that situation, the first thing you need to do, and the first thing I did was to gather strength from others, get to know others around you. When I think about my days in New York, because it's a similar situation for young lawyers working in a new environment or foreign lawyers working in Tokyo or like somewhere in Japan, you start your life as a stranger to that community. So the first thing you need to do is to get to know others. And sometimes you have some image of that community, or like myself, I has a prefixed image of a good lawyer, and a good lawyer can improve their skills by themselves. And that led me to misunderstand that I may not ask for help. So
Mm.
that was kind of like a strong bias. So mind your bias because it will prevent you from meeting serendipity. Because at the end of the day, even with big companies with tons of people, the workplace, real workplace is like a small village.
That's brilliant. I love it. Thank you so much. That's so good, isn't it? And you can find your serendipity, you said, if you mind your bias. Otherwise, if you don't and you keep on your bias, you'll bypass your serendipity. What does serendipity mean to you?
Serendipity means living life to meet joy. Uncertainty is sometimes worrisome, but at the end of the day, joy comes from positive surprise, and positive surprise always comes from serendipity. And that you remember how we met, right?
Tell everybody.
So it was at a legal hackathon event. It
It was.
was like a before like a COVID started, like
Mm.
2019. So we were really lucky to meet at a random event, and there were a lot of people, but coincidentally, we're in the same team to work on a project to make, remember, like a compliance training more cheerfully.
Yes. I was so frustrated by that, not winning, not getting anywhere, that it didn't make me cheerful. And I still think back to that day. I was grateful for meeting you, but I remember my feeling of not winning and how that taught me a lot about not always being the winner, and that you have to celebrate others who win. And that winning on that day was meeting you and meeting some others who I wouldn't have met had I not
Mm.
gone through that hackathon. It taught me a lot that day. I still think about it. So, Shinsuke, thank you so much for joining today. When you talked with me about coming on the show, you had talked about this podcast with two Japanese female lawyers, and you'd
Yes.
also talked about it with a marketing team of a boutique law firm in Tokyo.
Hmm.
Thank you for sharing
Of
and
course.
about this podcast. But you were also a little apprehensive, I think, to do it for the first time in English. And these people you spoke with said, "Oh, I like the idea of the podcast, but they feel the language or cultural barrier might be there." So tell me, how's it been for your first time today? When you finish today and you go and speak with these people again, what's your insights to tell them from having had this experience? And how do they overcome being shy to say yes to coming on the show?
I have a lot more things to talk about. So I didn't expect I ha will have this kind of feeling before, especially when I started preparing for this podcast episode. So never worry too much
Mm.
is a tip from me. But I know the feelings of like worrying too much about their first try. So my advice is to talk with me first.
Right?
Yeah,
You're
sure,
part of
sure,
this
sure.
community now. So talk to you first. Great point. Okay.
And I can show them how I prepared for this episode.
Mm.
So I listed up the expected questions, and these expected questions are from your previous episodes. And I used AI to analyze the previous
Oh,
podcast episodes to,
oh, please share with me.
yeah,
Sounds
yeah,
great.
list up 300 expected questions, and then I
What?
distilled into like a several like a top questions, and I prepared questions and answers list in Japanese, then used AI to translate into English, and then I made a AI podcast based on that and listened to that, and
Oh,
that kind of like a preparation.
oh, wow. Right. We're having another conversation on this. That's
Yes,
for
yes.
sure. That's awesome. I want to hear all about that. But for now, we have to finish up here, and I really don't
Uh-huh.
want to, but how exciting. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast,
Thank
for
you.
telling me a little bit there about what you have done to analyze it and create questions and translate it. Oh my God, I want more. Well, if people want to hear more and get in touch with you, can they do that through LinkedIn?
Sure, sure, sure. Of course.
Great. Well, we'll leave it there. If people have listened today and they loved what they heard from you, I'd love them to, drop us a note and tell us. When we share it on LinkedIn, please do comment and engage with Shinsuke. He'd love to hear from you, and so would I. But for now, that's everything for today, everybody. And as we always finish up with, cheers, kampai, and bye for
Bye.
now.